The magnitude of homelessness was difficult to grasp pre-COVID, but the pandemic's crushing economic effects are creating an even larger problem. High unemployment hitting low-income communities has left many more people at risk. Research professor and author Dr. MaryBeth Shinn says ending homelessness in America is possible, but it will take political will. As a professor at Vanderbilt University, her work focuses on ways to prevent and end homelessness. Dr. Shinn, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
In the midst of plenty, homelessness and what to do about it. That's the title of your book, and a great place to begin. What are the key drivers of homelessness?
Homelessness is essentially a housing affordability problem. When rents are too high for people to afford. And it's a problem that in the United States kind of began in the 80s and has only gotten worse. I think Canada lags a little bit behind us, one more place where the United States is a world leader. And Europe is also having serious problems. It's a worst manifestation of income inequality because as rents have gone up, incomes have not kept up. And so more and more people are paying more and more of their income for rent. When they can't manage the rent, they double up with friends and relatives. When that breaks down, they move to the streets.
Well, compounded by the virus and record unemployment, how is the pandemic impacting the numbers of people who are without a roof over their heads?
It's hard to say. Homelessness is sometimes called a lagging indicator because it's not the first thing that someone does to take to homelessness, to take to the streets, or to run down to the newest shelter down the block. So people try everything they can to avoid becoming homeless. So we don't really know yet. The most immediate impact is on homeless services. So congregate shelters have become COVID hot points, and so they've become more dangerous. That makes people reluctant to go to them. Winter shelter programs are often run by churches and religious congregations. They're not as eager to open up their doors and bring folks in the middle of the crisis. So the first impact we're seeing is on homeless services. I think we're seeing an increase in people who are out of doors, though I expect to see more of that, people who are unsheltered. And we may be seeing somewhat fewer people actually in shelters because people sensibly try to avoid places where they're likely to contract COVID.
Well, and despite orders to restrict evictions, what is the reality of what we're actually seeing in terms of reform for renters and landlords? And what does that eviction label do to prospects of finding future housing?
Well, it's harder to find future housing if you've been evicted in the past. Right now in the United States, the Centers for Disease Control has put a moratorium on evictions that goes to January. If that is not extended, we're likely to see quite a wave of evictions. There are somewhat over 8% of Americans, United States citizens, in the Census Pulse survey, the most recent one, that say that they either are behind on rent or mortgage payments or have little confidence that they can make next month's payment.
Well, is there a solution that could work in the shorter term? You advocated for the expansion of the Housing Choice Voucher program, targeting the most needy. Is that a potential solution?
Absolutely. It's not quite the short term. Again, in the United States, and I'm less familiar with Canada, there are funds called CARES Act funds that can be used for short-term rental subsidies. And those short-term rental subsidies can, with cleverness and will, be used as a bridge to the longer-term subsidies. There aren't enough of these housing choice vouchers, these longer-term housing subsidies that holds one's housing expense to 30% of income. Only about 1 in 4 people who are eligible get them. And so the waiting lists are long, but short-term subsidies could bridge to those longer term subsidies. And there's hope with the new administration that we might have a major expansion of this program, which is the key to, and the closest thing we have to a silver bullet to ending homelessness.
Well, there was also a fair housing mandate in place before it was repealed and replaced by the Preserving Community and Neighborhood Choice Rule. Was it working? Could it work?
The Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing Act was a response to the government-led discrimination against racial minorities in the United States. And it was provided for in the 1968 civil rights legislation. It took nearly half a century for the rule to be promulgated by HUD, and then it was promptly rescinded when the next administration came in. Its goals are to both remove impediments to fair housing, and those continue to exist. That is, when we send out paired testers, one black and one white, to the same housing unit, we document discrimination when the black prospective renter is treated less well in various ways than the white prospective renter. And the latest tests show that it continues, even though it's been illegal for decades. So the first thing we want to do is try to remove the impediments. And the second thing we want to do is to think about, given the legacy of government-sponsored segregation, how we can remove not merely the illegal impediments, but the impediments in communities that are perfectly legal, such as zoning restrictions on multifamily housing. The idea was that communities would be required to survey themselves and to think about and make a plan for furthering fair housing. And that was barely tried. There were only a few communities that had put in their plans at the time that the rule was rescinded. So again, we have a change.
Well, I think it's important to note that homelessness is not a life sentence, and perhaps not a personal failure, but a societal failure. How can we begin to change perceptions, especially with labels like chronic homelessness?
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. Many more people pass through homelessness than are homeless on any given night. And in the United States, it's over 500,000 who are homeless in any given night. It's about 3 times that many who are homeless over the course of the year. And back in 1990, very early in the current epidemic of homelessness, Bruce Link did a telephone survey of people living in ordinary housing, no barracks, no homeless shelters, no jails, and found that 7% had been literally homeless at some time in their lives, 14% if you count doubling up. So most homelessness is temporary. People pass through it. They come out the other end. That gives us a lot of points of intervention. How do we stop people from becoming homeless? How do we end it quickly for people who experience that state? How do we stop them from coming back?
Well, we said off the top, it's going to require the political will to end homelessness. They need help now more than ever, but it is an inconvenient political issue. This group doesn't have a lot of political clout, does it?
That's absolutely true. And I think homelessness is a choice, not by the people who are living on the streets, but by the rest of us when we turn the other way. We know how to end homelessness. For families, a housing choice voucher does the trick. For individuals with serious mental illnesses, we need to pair that subsidized housing with services. The at-home chez soi study in Canada showed that a housing first approach works beautifully for folks with serious mental illnesses and substance abuse problems, kind of the folks that are experiencing the most difficulties, can be helped. We know how to do it, and we should.
Well, we thank you so much for sharing your perspectives with us today, and we certainly can look forward with optimism, with hope that the new administration will tackle this very, very important societal issue. Thanks so much for your time today.
And thank you. Take care now.